The Awakening. Ethan Cross floated in the quiet darkness of space, staring at the massive ship before him. It was ancient, its metal hull covered in scars, its surface dark and lifeless. He had seen abandoned ships before, but this was different. This one was huge, stretching for miles, like a sleeping beast waiting to wake up. His small scavenger ship drifted closer. His scanner showed no life signs, no energy readings, nothing. It was a dead ship, just like the others he had found in the past. But something about it felt wrong. It had no markings, no sign of which civilization built it. Just cold, black metal. Ethan took a deep breath. All right, let's see what secrets you're hiding. He activated his ship's docking clamps and carefully stepped onto the ancient vessel. The airlock hissed open with difficulty, like it hadn't been used in 1,000 years. His boots touched the metal floor, and for a moment, nothing happened. Silence. Then, a deep, humming sound filled the ship. Ethan's heart pounded. The floor vibrated under his feet. Lights flickered to life along the dark walls. Strange symbols glowed blue, appearing on surfaces all around him. "This is not normal," Ethan muttered. He reached for his blaster, just in case, and walked forward. The hallway stretched ahead, filled with dust floating in the low gravity. He could see markings, alien writing, but none he recognized. It wasn't from any known species. Then suddenly, a voice spoke. A deep mechanical sound filled the air. Identification, incomplete. Scanning, human detected. Analyzing DNA. Ethan froze. DNA? What was scanning him? A blue light swept over his body, making his skin tingle. His mind screamed at him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The voice spoke again, louder this time. Bloodline confirmed. Activating command protocols. Welcome, Lord of the Void. The walls rumbled. The ship came alive. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. What did it just call him? Lord of the Void. Before he could think, the ground beneath him shifted. A section of the wall opened up, revealing a glowing control panel. Symbols flashed across it, as if waiting for him to act. His hands trembled as he reached out. He wasn't sure why, but something inside him told him to touch it. The moment his fingers made contact, memories that were not his flooded his mind. Flashes of war, starships fighting in the darkness. The throne, tall and shining, surrounded by kneeling warriors. A great empire, now lost. And a single command spoken by a voice that sounded too familiar. Find the hair. The ship must not fall. Ethan gasped and pulled his hand away. His head spun. His breathing was fast, uneven. What was that? Before he could understand, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. The mechanical voice spoke again, this time with urgency. Warning. Hostile ships detected. Incoming attack. Defenses offline. Immediate action required. Ethan's blood ran cold. Hostile ships. Who? He turned and ran back toward his ship, but before he could reach the airlock, a holographic display appeared in front of him. It showed a fleet of ships approaching fast. Alien ships, unlike anything he had ever seen. They were coming straight for him. The voice spoke again. Your command is required, my lord. Defend or surrender. Ethan's mind raced. He was just a scavenger. He wasn't a warrior, a leader, or a lord of anything. But this ship, this thing, had chosen him. And if he didn't act now, he was dead. He swallowed hard, staring at the massive fleet heading his way. His fingers clenched into fists. He didn't know what he had stepped into, but one thing was clear. He wasn't alone in the universe anymore. The Forgotten Throne. Ethan stood frozen in place as the ship's alarms blared around him. The flashing red lights reflected in his wide eyes. Hostile ships approaching. Defenses offline. Immediate action required. The words echoed in his mind, but he had no idea what to do. His heart pounded as he stared at the holographic display floating in the air before him. The enemy ships were closing in. Fast. Their strange angular designs looked nothing like the sleek ships of the modern galaxy. These vessels had jagged edges, blackened metal, and an eerie red glow pulsating from their cores. And they were coming for him. "Aye. Can you activate weapons?" Ethan asked, his voice uneven. "Negative. Primary systems remain in dormant mode. The vessel requires activation by the designated heir." That word again. Ethan had no idea what it meant, but he didn't have time to think. The enemy fleet was less than 5 minutes away, and his ship was still a floating corpse in space. "Fine," he muttered. "Tell me how to activate this thing. Step forward. Place your hand upon the command interface." Ethan hesitated, but he had no choice. He walked to the glowing control panel and placed his palm against the cold metal. A shock ran through his arm. The moment his skin made contact, a powerful surge of energy rushed through his body. His vision blurred. Memories, not his own, flooded his mind again. Visions of the past. He saw a throne, massive and made of obsidian-like metal, standing tall in a grand hall. A figure sat upon it, a warrior king in golden armor. Soldiers knelt before him, awaiting orders. The words came, deep and powerful. "The throne is not taken. It is earned. Only the blood of the rightful heir shall awaken the void." The vision shifted. A great battle raged across the stars. This very ship led an unstoppable fleet, cutting through enemy armadas like a sword through flesh. The enemies, the same ones closing in on him now, fled in terror before the might of the Empire's last ruler. Then, darkness, silence, betrayal. The fleet disappeared. The throne was lost. The ship drifted into the void. Forgotten. Waiting for him. Back to reality. Ethan gasped, stumbling back as the vision faded. His chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath. Recognition complete. Activation sequence engaged. The ship roared to life. Lights flashed on, panels flickered, and the once-dead vessel breathed again. Ethan watched in awe as the ship's systems powered up. Holographic displays spread out before him, revealing intricate controls, tactical readouts, and energy readings that made no sense to him. Asterisk, asterisk, then. Asterisk, asterisk, a message blinked in front of him. Weapons. Online. Ethan felt a rush of adrenaline. AI. Can we fight? Affirmative. Weapons operational. Targeting systems locked on enemy vessels. The enemy ships were now seconds away. They had seen the ship's activation. Their formations shifted. A warning transmission came through. A deep, guttural voice filled the ship. Unacceptable. The heir cannot be allowed to rise. Destroy the vessel at once. Ethan clenched his fists. His head still spun from the vision, but he knew one thing for certain. These people wanted him dead. But he had the ship now. He had power. And he wasn't going down without a fight. Fire. The ship responded instantly. The battle begins. A low, earth-shaking hum filled the ship as the first energy blast fired. A massive pulse of golden energy tore through the darkness and obliterated the lead enemy vessel in a single strike. The enemy fleet scattered. They had expected a dead ship, an easy kill. They had not expected a fully armed warship from a lost empire. More enemy ships charged forward, their own weapons blazing. Explosions erupted in the void as the battle began. Ethan clutched the command panel, sweat dripping down his forehead. He had no idea what he was doing, but the ship responded to his thoughts. It was like it was guiding him. The AI's voice echoed. Primary battle systems engage. Enemy fleet size. 12. Current odds of victory. 34%. That's not great, Ethan muttered. Correction, now 47%. Another blast tore through an enemy ship, leaving nothing but debris. Ethan grinned. Maybe he could do this. The enemy's response. But just as he started feeling confident, A new warning flashed across the screen. Cloaked vessel detected. Enemy boarding party incoming. Ethan's stomach dropped. Boarding party. The ship was massive. He could barely command its weapons, let alone fight off intruders. A loud TUD echoed through the corridors. The sound of metal scraping. They were already inside. Ethan's heart pounded. The enemy wasn't just here to destroy the ship. They were coming for him. For the throne. Enemies of the past. The echoes of metal scraping against metal sent a chill down Ethan's spine. They were inside. The ship's AI had detected the intruders the moment they breached the hull. But Ethan didn't need a warning. He could feel it. A strange pressure in the air, a quiet shift in the energy around him. The ship was old, but it was still alive. It whispered to him in ways he couldn't understand yet. Boarding party size. 12. Species. Unknown. Weapons. Energy-based firearms. Hostile intent confirmed. Ethan clenched his fists. He was a scavenger, not a soldier. His instincts screamed at him to run, to hide. But there was nowhere to go. This ship was his now. If he ran, he would lose everything. The AI's voice was calm, almost detached. Tactical options. Engage security protocols, or arm the hair for combat. Ethan hesitated. He didn't even know what security protocols the ship had, but arming himself. That was something he understood. "Give me a weapon," he said. A hidden compartment slid open in the wall. Inside was a sleek, black firearm, ancient but well-maintained. Ethan grabbed it, feeling the cool weight of the metal. It was heavier than it looked. The moment his fingers wrapped around the grip, the gun hummed to life, as if recognizing him. Weapon recognized. Guardian-class pulse pistol activated. Power source. Self-replenishing. He didn't have time to admire it. The sounds of boots hitting the floor echoed through the halls. They were moving fast. Ethan pressed himself against a wall, his breath steady, but his heart pounding. Then, through the dim blue lights of the corridor, he saw them. They weren't human. The intruders had tall, elongated figures, their bodies wrapped in dark, plated armor. Their faces were hidden beneath smooth, featureless helmets. Glowing red symbols pulsed on their shoulders. They moved with unnatural speed, silent, efficient, like predators closing in on their prey. One of them stopped, turning its helmet in Ethan's direction. Ethan didn't think. He fired. The blue energy blast hit the soldier square in the chest. For a second, nothing happened. Then, with a loud screech, the armor cracked apart, and the intruder collapsed, twitching. The others turned instantly, raising their weapons. Ethan ducked. Bolts of red energy sizzled past him, striking the walls. Sparks rained down as the ship took the hits. Ethan rolled behind cover, firing blindly. Another intruder dropped. Security protocols. Now, Ethan shouted. The ship responded instantly. The lights flickered. A deep rumbling filled the corridors. Then, the walls moved. Metallic tendrils lashed out from hidden compartments, slamming into the intruders, grabbing them, crushing them like insects. The last enemy hissed something in an unknown language and sprinted toward Ethan. Too fast. Before he could react, the soldier tackled him, knocking the pistol from his grip. Ethan hit the ground hard, the air leaving his lungs in a painful gasp. The intruder loomed over him, a curved blade of glowing red plasma emerging from its gauntlet. Ethan grabbed the enemy's wrist just as the blade swung down. Burning heat singed his skin. He gritted his teeth, using all his strength to push back. Then, the ship reacted. A surge of blue energy pulsed through the floor. The intruder jerked, spasming violently before collapsing, smoke rising from its armor. Ethan rolled away, panting. The corridor fell silent. The bodies of the intruders lay motionless. The ship's security systems had done their job. But Ethan had no time to relax. The AI's voice returned, calm but urgent. Hostile vessel charging weapons. Incoming bombardment detected. shields at 43%. Ethan pushed himself up, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "They're not done yet," he muttered. He ran back toward the control room. The holographic display now showed the enemy ship hovering outside, preparing to unleash a full volley of plasma torpedoes. If those hit, the shields wouldn't hold. Ethan's hands flew across the controls. He had to end this fight. "Now. AI, give me everything we've got," he ordered. "Affirmative. Activating primary weapon system." The void cannon. The ship shook violently as something massive began powering up deep within its core. On the display, the enemy vessel started backing away. Too late. A low, deafening hum filled the air. Then, a beam of pure golden energy erupted from the ship's front. It tore through the enemy vessel in an instant. No explosion. No debris. The ship simply vanished, erased from existence. Ethan collapsed into the captain's chair, gasping for air. His whole body trembled. The ship was too powerful, too deadly. And now, it was his. The AI's voice interrupted his thoughts. Hostile threat neutralized. However, intercepted transmissions indicate that enemy reinforcements are en route. Estimated time of arrival: 3 hours. Ethan's stomach twisted. More were coming. They wouldn't stop until he was dead. Until the ship was theirs. He ran a hand through his hair. He was in over his head, and he knew it. But running wasn't an option anymore. He needed answers, and the only place to find them was in the ship's forbidden archives, where the truth about who he was, and what this ship really was, awaited him. The first battle. Ethan's hands were still trembling as he stared at the holographic display before him. The enemy vessel had been wiped from existence, erased by a weapon he had barely understood, much less controlled. The ship had reacted instantly to his command, its power flowing like an extension of his own will. And yet, this was only the beginning. The AI's voice, calm and emotionless as ever, echoed through the command deck. "Warning. Enemy reinforcements detected. Estimated arrival in 3 hours. Threat level: extreme." Ethan exhaled sharply. 3 hours. That was all the time he had. He needed to prepare, but for what? He still didn't understand why these people wanted him dead. He still didn't know what it meant to be the heir of the void, or why this ship had chosen him. But one thing was certain: they feared him. And fear meant power. He clenched his fists. He wasn't going to run. Not this time. Unlocking the archives. I need answers. "Now," Ethan said, "what is this ship? Why do these people want me dead?" The holographic display flickered, shifting to an ancient star map filled with locations Ethan didn't recognize. Then, slowly, the symbols on the walls began to glow. "The vessel you command is the Eternal Dawn, the last remaining warship of the Dominion, an empire that ruled the void long before your species first reached the stars." Ethan leaned forward. The Dominion. He had never heard of them before. But if they had ruled an empire, then what had happened to them? What wiped them out? A pause. Then the AI's response was colder than before. Treason. Betrayal. The war ended before it truly began. The Dominion fell from within. Ethan's stomach tightened. He had seen flashes of it before. The throne, the great warriors, the battle that had never been won. So why me? I'm just a scavenger. I don't belong to some ancient empire. The AI's lights flickered for a moment, as if considering its response. Your DNA carries the mark of the last ruler. You are the last descendant of the lost bloodline. You are the rightful heir to the throne. Ethan swallowed hard. The last ruler. He wasn't just some random scavenger who had stumbled onto a lost ship. He was the only one left. "All right," he muttered, running a hand through his hair. "So let's say I believe you. What happens now?" "You fight." The word sent a chill down his spine. The AI continued. "The Dominion's enemies never died. They have been waiting, watching, ensuring the throne remains empty. They have feared this moment for generations. Ethan's grip tightened. That explained why they had attacked so quickly, why they had risked everything just to kill him before he could awaken the ship. And now more were coming. If he wanted to survive, he had to act. Preparing for war. Ethan turned to the weapons console. "Show me what we've got." The display shifted, revealing a staggering arsenal of destruction. Primary energy cannons, capable of cutting through battleships with a single shot. Void torpedoes, warheads designed to erase matter upon impact. Auto-defense systems, advanced targeting arrays that could engage multiple enemies at once. Nano-repair drones, small, automated machines that could repair the ship mid-battle. He let out a slow breath. This ship wasn't just a warship, it was a weapon of extinction, and it had been sleeping for centuries, waiting for him. "All right, let's get to work," Ethan muttered. The next 3 hours were spent bringing the ship back to full combat readiness. He activated the automated repair drones, restoring damaged systems. He studied the battle simulations, letting the AI guide him through tactics the Dominion had once used. And he armed himself. Deep within the ship's armory, he found a combat suit unlike anything he had seen before. Sleek, black, and edged with golden energy lines, it responded to his touch, adjusting itself to fit his body. It was meant for a ruler going to war. As he secured the armor, his pulse pistol magnetically locked onto his thigh. He was as ready as he could be. Now, all he had to do was wait. The enemy arrives. The AI's voice cut through the silence. Enemy fleet has entered scanning range. 32 ships. Composition: heavy destroyers, tactical frigates, and boarding carriers. Ethan's blood ran cold. 32 ships. He didn't have a fleet. He had one. But this wasn't just any ship. "Aye," he said, taking his place at the command panel. "Let's show them why they were afraid of the Dominion." "Affirmative, my lord." The first enemy torpedoes launched. The battle had begun. The warship Awakens. The Eternal Dawn reacted instantly. Its shields flared to life as incoming fire slammed against them. Explosions rippled through space, but the ship held firm. Then, Ethan gave his first real command. "Fire the void cannons." A deep hum vibrated through the ship as the golden beams of destruction erupted forward. 2 enemy destroyers were ripped apart instantly. Their remains vanished into nothingness. The enemy fleet scattered, realizing too late that this was not an ordinary battle. Ethan grinned. They had expected an old derelict ship. They had no idea what they were facing. Auto-defense systems, engage. The ship responded at once. Swarm drones launched from hidden compartments, weaving through enemy fire, tearing into ships like metal pyroness. Enemy ships exploded left and right. But then, the real attack began. The enemy's boarding carriers moved in fast. They had one goal: get inside the ship and take control. Ethan cursed under his breath. "AI, prepare for internal combat. We're not letting them take a single step past the airlocks." "Understood." Deploying countermeasures. Within seconds, hatches opened along the ship's hull. And from them, automated defense turrets emerged. The moment the enemy boarding pods latched onto the hull, the turrets opened fire. Explosions rocked the corridors. The ship was fighting for itself. But some made it through. Ethan drew his pistol. If they wanted to take the throne from him, they'd have to fight him for it. And this time, he was ready. The return of the Empire. The battlefield was a graveyard. Wreckage from the enemy fleet drifted through the void, silent and lifeless. Glowing embers flickering within shattered hulls. The Eternal Dawn remained, damaged but undefeated, its golden energy pulsing through the dark, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant that had finally awakened. Ethan stood in the command chamber, breathing hard, his fingers still trembling from the last battle. He had fought harder than ever before, pushing the ship to its limits, and yet, he knew this wasn't over. The AI's voice broke the heavy silence. Enemy reinforcements detected. Estimated arrival: 45 minutes. Ethan exhaled slowly, his jaw tightening. More were coming. He had barely survived the last fight, and now an even greater force was on the way. But something felt different. The enemy had thrown everything at him: warships, boarding parties, entire squadrons of soldiers, and they had failed. If they were sending another fleet, it meant one thing. They were afraid. Not of him, perhaps, but of what he represented. He glanced at the control panel, where the ship's status was displayed. Damage reports scrolled across the screen. Shields at 21%, primary weapons at 67% efficiency, auto defense systems down. They couldn't survive another battle in this condition. Unless... Ethan turned toward the central console, where an old star map had been revealed after the battle. It had activated the moment he had given his final command against the enemy fleet, as if the ship had been waiting for him to prove himself. And now it was showing him the key to survival. A single blinking marker stood out among the dead systems and forgotten worlds. A location far beyond the reach of modern maps. The Lost Fleet. Ethan's fingers hovered over the controls. What is this? The ship's voice responded immediately. It is the resting place of the Dominion's last fleet. Ethan's pulse quickened. More ships. He wasn't alone. He zoomed in on the coordinates, studying the display. The fleet was hidden in the remnants of an ancient starforge, a place where the Dominion had once built weapons and warships beyond modern understanding. It had been sealed off when the Empire fell, locked away from the galaxy, until now. A thought hit him. If the enemy was afraid of him, they had to be terrified of the idea that he might reach this place, that he might not just survive, but rebuild. Set a course, Ethan ordered. We're going there. Now. Acknowledged. Initiating FTL drive. The eternal dawn hummed as the engines flared to life. The ship vibrated beneath his feet, and outside, the wreckage of the battlefield blurred as they jumped into hyperspace. The chase was on. The enemy's response. The enemy wouldn't just let him go. Within minutes of their jump, the AI alerted him. Hostile transmissions intercepted. Enemy fleet pursuing. Estimated time of arrival: 1 hour after our arrival at the target coordinates. They were coming for him. He gritted his teeth. Good. Let them. Arrival at the Starforge. When the ship exited FTL, Ethan stared in awe. The Starforge was a monstrous, ancient construct floating within the ruins of a dead star system. Massive rings of metal stretched across space, partially destroyed but still pulsing with a dim golden glow. And within those rings, the fleet. Hundreds of massive warships, asleep in the void, their dark hulls gleaming beneath the light of a dying sun. His breath caught in his throat. This wasn't just a hidden fleet. This was an armada. Enough firepower to take back the throne of a lost empire. Ethan said, his voice steady. Are they operational? The response came with a hint of something new. Excitement. Power signatures detected. Reactivation sequence available. Authorization required. Ethan didn't hesitate. He placed his hand on the control panel. The moment his skin made contact, the Starforge came alive. The fleet awakens. Lights flashed across the warships. The once dark hulls illuminated with ancient power. Energy conduits glowed with golden fire. And the silent void was filled with movement. The warships stirred, their engines humming to life, their cannons charging. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. He had done it. He had awakened the Dominion. And just in time. The AI's voice returned. Enemy fleet detected. Arrival in 5 minutes. Ethan's hands curled into fists. He turned toward the fleet, his fleet. The eternal dawn was no longer alone. He opened a channel to the awakened warships. He didn't know if anyone was listening. He didn't even know if there were people left on these ships. But it didn't matter. He spoke anyway. "This is Ethan Cross," he said, his voice steady. "I don't know if any of you can hear me. I don't know if you were waiting for someone, or if you even remember who you once were. He looked out at the growing army before him. But I do know this. The Dominion is not dead. We are not forgotten. And today, we rise again. Silence. Then, the warships responded. The once empty screens flickered as old command systems activated. The ancient vessels shifted, aligning themselves into battle formations. Ethan smiled grimly. Because now, they weren't being hunted anymore. Now, they were going to war. The last ruler. The eternal dawn hovered at the front of a vast awakening fleet, its golden energy shimmering across the void. Hundreds of warships, once lost to time, had been reborn under Ethan's command. Their weapons glowed, their engines hummed, their ancient systems roared back to life. And they were waiting. Ethan stood on the command deck, his heart pounding in his chest. The enemy fleet was nearly upon them. He could see the glowing red flashes on his tactical display. An armada of destroyers, dreadnoughts, and battlecruisers, all racing toward him like a storm. They had come to end him before he could rise. But now he was ready. His hand hovered over the command console. The AI's voice remained steady. Hostile fleet within range, engaging final combat protocols. Ethan took a deep breath. This was it. He turned his gaze toward the newly awakened warships, their vast hulls gleaming in the dying light of the ancient Starforge. Each one was waiting for his command. He opened a fleet-wide transmission. "This is Ethan Cross," he said. His voice was steady, but he could feel the weight of history behind every word. "I don't know who you were before today. I don't know how long you've slept, or if you even remember what it was like to serve the Dominion." He looked at the enemy ships. Their numbers vast, their power overwhelming. But I do know this. We stand on the edge of something greater than any of us. The enemy thinks we are broken. They believe we are ghosts of a dead empire, but they are wrong. He stepped forward, his hands gripping the controls. Today, we don't fight for the past. We fight for the future. We fight because they fear what we can become, and we fight because we will not be erased. Silence. Then, the fleet responded. One by one, the warships powered up their weapons, their golden energy cores pulsing brighter than ever before. The Dominion had risen again. Ethan's fingers curled into a fist. All ships, fire at will. The final battle. The eternal dawn roared to life, unleashing a devastating barrage of golden beams. The enemy fleet scattered, their lead ships torn apart in an instant. The Dominion fleet moved like a force of nature, warships firing in perfect synchronization. Torpedoes ripped through enemy formations. Destroyers collided and exploded in bursts of fire and metal. The enemy had expected a scattered, broken remnant. They had not expected a resurrected empire. Ethan gritted his teeth as his ship weaved through the chaos, dodging plasma fire and launching precision strikes. The AI's voice echoed through the deck. Enemy fleet at 72% losses. Victory projection, 89%. But then, the enemy's true weapon appeared. A massive Titan-class dreadnought emerged from the void, its hull 10 times the size of the Eternal Dawn. Its black surface shimmered, absorbing energy instead of reflecting it. Ethan's chest tightened. The AI's voice faltered for the first time. Warning. Unknown energy signature detected. Potential weapon capable of nullifying advanced technology. And then, the void itself cracked. The dreadnought unleashed a shockwave of dark energy, and suddenly, the Dominion fleet stopped firing. Their weapons shut down, their engines dimmed. The ancient warships, reborn after centuries of silence, were suddenly powerless. Ethan's stomach dropped. What's happening?" The ship's voice was unreadable. Enemy vessel emitting suppression field. All advanced technology rendered inoperative. They had planned for this. This was how the Dominion had fallen before. Not by war, but by betrayal. Ethan clenched his fists. They had come so far. He couldn't lose now. The enemy fleet closed in, sensing their advantage. Plasma cannons charge, railguns aimed. And in that moment, Ethan saw it. A single word blinking on his control panel, a final option. The Throne of the Void. Manual override. Throne protocol. The ship had been waiting for him to make a choice. Ethan hesitated. He didn't know what it would do. But he had no other choice. He pressed his hand to the interface. The ship responded instantly. A surge of raw energy coursed through him. The world blurred, his vision filled with stars, memories, voices. And suddenly, he was everywhere. The ship was him. His mind stretched across the battlefield, linking to every single warship in the fleet. He could feel them, every weapon, every engine, every damaged hull struggling to hold together. He could feel the crew that had once manned them, echoes of warriors long dead, their spirits still bound to their ships. And in that moment, he understood. The Dominion had never been just a government. It had been a force of will, a legacy woven into the very fabric of its ships. And as its last ruler, he could bring it back. The eternal dawn trembled as his mind fused with the core of the ship. His voice echoed across the fleet, not through radio, not through commands, but through sheer will. Rise. The warships shook. The enemy dreadnought fired another suppression wave, but this time it had no effect. Ethan overrode the suppression field, breaking its hold. Fire. The Dominion fleet reawakened, unleashing a final, unstoppable assault. Golden lances of energy tore through the dreadnought, its hull splitting apart as the ancient warships pushed forward, overwhelming the enemy. The darkness shattered. The last enemy warships fled, their command structure broken, their leaders dead. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the Dominion stood victorious. The future of a lost empire. Ethan collapsed to his knees as the energy faded from his body. His breath was ragged, his mind still reeling from the connection. The AI's voice, for the first time, held something almost like emotion. Congratulations, Lord of the Void. Ethan slowly stood, looking out at the fleet. The war was over. But what came next? The Dominion had returned. And now, he had a choice. Would he rebuild the empire? Would he lead a new age of conquest, of expansion, of power? Or would he do what no ruler before him had done? Forge a new path. He closed his eyes. The weight of history pressed against him. Then, slowly, a smile crossed his face. The Dominion had fallen to betrayal. But now, under him, it would rise under something far more powerful. Hope.